The kind of man who believes he knows everything is perhaps one of the most frustrating and exhausting people to deal with. He walks into a room with an air of overconfidence, asserting his opinions as facts and dismissing any perspective that challenges his own. His certainty is not born out of wisdom or experience, but rather out of an unwillingness to acknowledge his own limitations. He believes that admitting ignorance is a weakness when, in reality, it is one of the greatest strengths a person can have. This kind of mindset does not just make interactions unpleasant, it stunts personal growth, hinders relationships, and often leads to poor decision making. One of the most glaring issues with a man who thinks he knows everything is his inability to listen. Conversations with him are rarely actual discussions. They are monologues in which he dominates the conversation, speaking over others and dismissing their input. He does not engage in meaningful dialogue because in his mind, he already has all the answers. Instead of listening to understand, he listens only to respond, often with condescension as if correcting a child. This behavior makes any genuine exchange of ideas impossible. People quickly learn that there is no point in offering their thoughts or opinions because he will not entertain them. Over time, this isolates him, not because people dislike intelligence, but because they dislike arrogance masked as intelligence. This kind of man is particularly dangerous in leadership roles. Whether in the workplace, in politics, or in personal relationships, a leader who refuses to acknowledge gaps in his knowledge will inevitably make poor decisions. He will refuse advice, dismiss expert opinions, and ignore warning signs simply because he cannot accept that someone else might know better. History is littered with examples of leaders whose overconfidence led to catastrophic consequences, from failed business ventures to political disasters. The inability to admit ignorance does not just affect the individual, it affects everyone around him. Another troubling aspect of this mentality is the resistance to learning. A person who believes he knows everything sees no need to educate himself further. He does not read, he does not ask questions, and he certainly does not entertain the possibility that he might be wrong. This stagnation is the very opposite of intelligence. True wisdom comes from recognizing that there is always more to learn. The most intelligent people in history, scientists, philosophers, inventors, were those who constantly sought knowledge, who questioned their own beliefs, and who embraced new ideas. In contrast, the man who thinks he knows everything is stuck in an intellectual dead zone, unwilling to move forward or evolve. This behavior is often rooted in insecurity. A truly confident and intelligent person does not fear being wrong. In fact, he welcomes correction as an opportunity to grow. But the man who cannot admit he does not know something is often deeply insecure, terrified of appearing weak or uninformed. He masks this insecurity with arrogance, hoping that if he asserts himself strongly enough, no one will notice his doubt. Ironically, this attempt to appear strong only makes him weaker. People can see through the facade, and instead of respecting him, they find him exhausting, frustrating, and ultimately untrustworthy. The effects of this attitude on relationships, whether romantic, platonic, or professional, are profound. No one wants to be around someone who always has to be right. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect, open communication, and the ability to admit mistakes. A man who refuses to acknowledge his flaws or listen to others creates an environment where the people around him feel undervalued and unheard. Over time, friends distance themselves, colleagues avoid collaboration, and romantic partners grow resentful. His refusal to learn from others or admit his own faults eventually leads to loneliness, because genuine connections cannot be built on one-sided conversations and unyielding pride. In some cases, this overconfidence can also lead to recklessness. A man who believes he knows everything often takes unnecessary risks, convinced that he is immune to failure. He might make rash financial decisions, ignore medical advice, or refuse to prepare adequately for challenges because he is certain he can handle anything on his own. This false sense of invincibility can have serious consequences, not just for him, but for those who depend on him. He may dismiss sound advice from experts, leading to poor investment choices, career failures, or even health complications. His unwillingness to accept that he might be wrong blinds him to danger, and eventually, reality catches up. Perhaps one of the saddest aspects of this mindset is that it prevents growth. Life is a journey of learning and self improvement, and those who embrace this fact continue to evolve, becoming better versions of themselves. The man who believes he has nothing left to learn is, in a way, already stuck in the past. He does not improve, he does not adapt, and he does not become wiser. He remains exactly as he is, trapped in his own illusion of superiority. So, how does one deal with such a person? The truth is, trying to change him is often futile. People like this rarely respond well to direct confrontation, as they see it as a challenge to their perceived authority. Instead, the best approach is often to set boundaries. Engaging in debates with someone who refuses to listen is a waste of energy, and sometimes the best response is to simply walk away. If this person is a colleague, limiting interactions to strictly necessary conversations can help maintain professionalism without unnecessary frustration. If it is a friend or family member, gently steering conversations away from controversial topics can help preserve the relationship while avoiding pointless arguments. However, if the man in question is someone close, perhaps a romantic partner or a mentor, then the issue becomes more complex. In these cases, patience and subtle encouragement can sometimes help. Asking open ended questions rather than outright challenging him can gently guide him towards self reflection. Encouraging humility by setting an example, admitting one's own mistakes, expressing curiosity about learning new things might, over time, influence his behavior. But ultimately, change has to come from within. No one can force another person to be open minded, they have to choose it for themselves. There is a lesson in all of this, not just about dealing with others, but also about self awareness. It is easy to point out these flaws in other people, but true wisdom comes from asking, do I ever behave this way? Everyone at some point has been guilty of stubbornness, of refusing to listen, of thinking they know more than they do. Recognizing these moments in ourselves and making a conscious effort to remain open to new ideas is what separates intelligence from ignorance. The ability to say, I don't know is powerful. It is not an admission of weakness, but a testament to a strong and evolving mind. Those who embrace curiosity, who listen more than they speak, and who understand that knowledge is infinite are the ones who truly grow. The man who thinks he knows everything may feel superior in the moment, but in the grand scheme of life, he is the one who loses the most. He loses wisdom, he loses relationships, and he loses the chance to become better. So, the next time you encounter such a person or feel yourself slipping into that mindset, remember this: the smartest people are not the ones with all the answers, but the ones who never stop asking questions. A man who disrespects others is one of the most toxic individuals to be around. Disrespect comes in many forms: rudeness, condescension, manipulation, and outright cruelty. It may be subtle, like dismissing someone's ideas in a conversation, or blatant, like public humiliation. No matter how it manifests, disrespect is always a sign of deeper flaws: arrogance, insecurity, entitlement, or even a complete lack of empathy. A man who disrespects others does so because he believes he is superior. He sees people as tools to be used, obstacles to be pushed aside, or inferiors to be looked down upon. He does not consider other people's feelings, nor does he value their time, efforts, or existence. He interrupts conversations, talks over people, dismisses opinions, and belittles those he deems less important. This behavior is especially visible when he interacts with people he considers beneath him: waiters, drivers, assistants, or even family members he does not respect. The way someone treats those who cannot offer them anything in return speaks volumes about their character. A man who disrespects others often thrives on control. He wants to dominate every situation, every conversation, and every relationship. He uses disrespect as a tool to assert his authority, making others feel small so that he can feel big. He does not tolerate opposition, and when someone challenges him, he responds with insults, sarcasm, or outright hostility. To him, admitting he is wrong is a sign of weakness, so he would rather undermine others than face his own flaws. This not only damages relationships, but also creates an environment of fear and resentment wherever he goes. In professional settings, a disrespectful man is a nightmare to work with. He disregards his colleagues' contributions, takes credit for others' work, and treats subordinates with disdain. He interrupts meetings, dismisses ideas without consideration, and thrives on making others feel inferior. His lack of respect creates a toxic work culture where employees feel undervalued and unmotivated. People begin to fear speaking up, innovation is stifled, and overall morale declines. No successful leader operates this way for long because true leadership is built on respect, not intimidation. The best leaders uplift those around them, but a disrespectful man only seeks to bring others down. In personal relationships, disrespect is even more damaging. A man who does not respect his partner will treat them as less than an equal. He will disregard their emotions, dismiss their concerns, and expect them to tolerate behavior he would never accept from them. He might make decisions without consulting his partner, ignore their boundaries, or even mock their dreams and aspirations. Over time, this kind of treatment erodes self esteem and creates an unhealthy dynamic where one person dominates while the other constantly feels unheard and undervalued. Disrespect in friendships is equally toxic. A man who does not respect his friends will talk down to them, make jokes at their expense, and invalidate their feelings. He will use friendship as a means of control, expecting loyalty but offering none in return. He will manipulate, gaslight, or belittle those around him just to maintain a sense of power. Over time, even the most patient and understanding friends will grow tired of the mistreatment and walk away. Disrespect destroys friendships, and once trust is broken, it is incredibly difficult to rebuild. One of the most telling traits of a disrespectful man is his attitude toward women. If he believes that women are inferior, his disrespect will show in the way he speaks, behaves, and interacts. He may dismiss women's achievements, interrupt them in conversations, or objectify them without regard for their dignity. A man like this often feels entitled to attention, to validation, even to control over a woman's choices. He does not see women as equals, but rather as possessions or accessories to his own life. This kind of disrespect is not only harmful but dangerous, as it leads to toxic relationships, emotional abuse, and sometimes even physical harm. Disrespect also extends to how a man treats people outside of his immediate circle. A disrespectful man may insult strangers, mock people for their appearances or backgrounds, or make cruel jokes at the expense of others. He might be dismissive of different cultures, beliefs, or ways of life simply because they do not align with his own. This kind of closed minded arrogance creates division, fosters hate, and prevents meaningful connections with the world around him. At its core, disrespect is a reflection of insecurity. A man who is truly confident does not need to put others down to feel strong. He does not need to assert dominance through cruelty or belittlement. Instead, a secure man recognizes the value in others, treats people with kindness, and understands that respect is earned through character, not intimidation. A disrespectful man may believe that his behavior makes him powerful, but in reality, it makes him weak. People do not admire or respect those who treat others poorly. They fear them or tolerate them until they no longer have to. Over time, disrespect isolates a person. Colleagues avoid them, friends leave them, and partners grow distant. Eventually, the man who once believed he was above others finds himself alone, with no one willing to stand by him. There are many reasons why a man might develop this kind of attitude. Sometimes it is a learned behavior. Perhaps he grew up in an environment where disrespect was normalized. Other times, it is a defense mechanism, a way to mask deep seated insecurities and fear. Some men adopt this mindset because they equate respect with fear, believing that being intimidating will make them more powerful. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. A life filled with strained relationships, lost opportunities, and a reputation that follows him wherever he goes. Changing this behavior is not easy, but it is possible. The first step is self awareness. A man who disrespects others must be willing to acknowledge his actions and the harm they cause. This requires humility, something that many disrespectful men struggle with. It means recognizing that being kind and treating others with dignity does not make a person weak. It makes them strong. The next step is making a conscious effort to listen. Disrespect often stems from an unwillingness to hear others out, to consider different perspectives, or to value other people's experiences. Learning to listen, truly listen, can change everything. It fosters understanding, deepens relationships, and allows for personal growth. Another crucial aspect is empathy. Understanding that every person has their own struggles, experiences, and emotions is key to treating people with respect. A man who learns to see beyond his own perspective, who makes an effort to put himself in others' shoes, will begin to approach interactions with kindness rather than judgment. Apologizing is also important. A man who has spent years disrespecting others will have left a trail of hurt and resentment behind him. Owning up to past mistakes, making amends, and demonstrating a genuine effort to change can help rebuild broken relationships. However, an apology means nothing if it is not backed by real change. On your face. Ultimately, respect is a choice. It is a decision to treat others with kindness, regardless of status, background, or personal gain. It is an acknowledgement that every human being deserves to be heard, valued, and treated with dignity. A man who learns this lesson will find that respect is not something that is demanded, it is something that is given freely in return. On the other hand, a man who refuses to change, who continues to disrespect those around him, will find that life becomes increasingly difficult. Opportunities will slip away, relationships will crumble, and his reputation will be defined by negativity. People remember how they were treated, and those who spread disrespect will eventually reap the consequences of their own actions. In the end, the choice is simple. A man can choose to be someone who uplifts, encourages, and supports those around him, or he can be someone who belittles, degrades, and alienates. One path leads to a fulfilling life filled with meaningful connections, and the other leads to loneliness and regret. The strongest men, the most admirable men, and the most successful men are not those who demand respect through fear, but those who earn it through kindness, integrity, and genuine regard for others.